Hi friends, today we will see how to make a payment entry in EVA ERP. So when you send an invoice to customer, they make a payment against it and you have to make that payment entry in the software, because if you don't do that, you as well as the customer will keep getting reminders for the payment. So let's see how to make a payment entry in EVA ERP. There are two ways to access the payment document. One is directly from the invoice. There is a button on the top of the invoice which says payment document, or you can directly access the payment document of that invoice. So first let's see how to get to the payment document screen via invoice. So I'll click on the accounts module here on the top, then I'll click on the accounts option, and then I will click on the invoice list. So this is the invoice list. I'll have to search and pull up that invoice against which the payment is being made. So I'll consider the same example which we saw in our last session where we created an invoice. So I'll pull up the same invoice here. So I'll click on the search option here on the upper right corner of the screen. If you know the order ID, the contract ID of that invoice, you can enter it here, or any other detail that you know about the invoice in order to pull it up. So let's pull it up with the customer's name. So I'll enter Midas Industries Private Limited. So I'll click on Go. So that will bring the invoice that we raised last time. So this is the invoice for the Midas Industries Private Limited. The invoice amount was 1,475. So I'll simply click on the invoice to pull it up. So this is the invoice, and you can see a button here on the top which says view payment. So if I click on this button, ERP will directly take me to the payment document screen. So I'll just have to enter the payment there and we can complete this transaction. So let's see how to do it. So I'll click on the view payment button here. So now the screen is changed to the payment deed. So this is the payment document for the Midas Industries Private Limited's contract for the first quarter. You can see the invoice details here as well. So if you scroll down on the screen, it will give you, or it will show you the details about this invoice and the payment. So now I can see here the gross amount for this quarter or for this invoice is 1,475, and let's say they have made their payment and I want to make an entry of that payment so that the payment reminder can be stopped. So you can see the breakup of the amount as well. So the invoice amount was 1,475, out of which the base amount was 1,250 plus 225 rupees of tax. So in order to make a payment entry, I'll just have to edit this document. I'll click on the edit button here on the top. I will enter the amount that I have received from the customer. So I'm putting, and I'll have to, okay, so I have made the entry here. You can see that the amount is already been adjusted here in the tax and the base amount. I can select the method of the payment that the customer have made, if it's a cash payment, check payment, or NEFT payment. So if this is a cash payment, the system will not ask you for any additional information, but if you select the check, these 5 fields here gets unlocked. So you can enter the check details here, like the bank account number, the bank's name, the branch of that bank, the check number, and the check date. So all these details you can fill in here, out of which the check number and the check date are the mandatory fields, without which you cannot save these document. And if the payment is via NEFT, which is an online transfer, it will only ask you for the transfer date, the reference number, the transaction ID. So let's say that this customer have made an online payment, and let's say the transfer date was on the same date as of the invoice date, and the reference ID was, so let's say this was the reference number or the transaction ID for that transaction, and I'll simply click on the save button here on the top. Now I have made the payment entry, but this document is still in created status. You can see it here. So we just have to submit this document in order to complete an entire transaction. So I'll click on the submit button. So now our transaction is complete. So you as well as the client will not get any reminders for this payment from now on, as we have made the entry of the payment in the system. Let's check the other way, which is directly from the payment screen. So I'll go back to the home screen. So this is the home screen, and from here, if I want to access the payment document, I'll simply click on the accounts module, then on the accounts option, and then on the payment details or payment list option. So on the screen, if the invoice is submitted, and payment document will get automatically generated against it. So I'll simply have to search for that document. So I'll click on search option. I'll click by any details that I have of that customer, let's say with the name. So I will click on the suggestion. I'll click on go button. So this is the payment document for which I have to make an entry. So I'll simply click on this document, and I can click on the edit, and I can, since this is the same document that we have just submitted, that's why it's not giving me an option to edit it. So this is how you can access the payment documents to make the payments entry and to complete a transaction against any invoice. So there is a dashboard also which says payment dashboard. If you click on this, so this is the screen of the payment dashboard where you can see all the pending payments. And from this dashboard, you will have the customer information and the amount which is pending. So you can directly call on the cell phone number which is on the customer's profile. You have all the information regarding this. You can have the follow-up with the customer, and that communication can be logged in the dashboard here. You just have to click on the follow-up button here. That will pop up the interaction window where you can enter the interaction that you had with the customer, the next interaction due date, the follow-up date. You can select the interaction group and you can simply click on the add. So let's say customer will make the payment today, and I will put the today's date as in follow-up date for the customer, and I'll select the call update as an interaction group, and I'll click on the add button here. I'll click on the save. So now I have this interaction saved in the system, same as we did for the leads and quotation. So you can have the follow-up with the customer from this screen. So this is how you can make the payment entry, and you can keep follow-up with the customer for the payments. Thank you so much for watching the video.